Good morning! Good morning sa lahat! Continue tayo sa pagbabasa. No? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, hindi tayo nakapagbasa eh. Kasi marami tayong inaasikaso. Meron po mga inaasikaso. New business like dito sa Riblon. Ito mga ganitong products. So, galing siyang US. Kaya hindi medyo prepare ko muna. Nay? Lolo, kakuha na sa mga Tay? 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 Sila na lang siguro. Tapila na siya doon. Interruption, wait lang ha. Ulit tayo nakapagbasa. Then we're back. Pasensya na. So, reproductive health. Gandang ngiti. Ganda ng ngiti niya. Number. Pretty. Reproductive health. From puberty into old age, a woman's reproductive system affects her whole being. It influences her ability to conceive, in her enjoyment of sex, her weight, and the brittleness of her bones. The reverse is also true. A woman's general health has repercussions on her reproductive system. The reproduction process is controlled by the involuntary nervous system, which is linked to the body's energy system and healing power. Neglecting nutrition, exposing yourself to stress, which might be physical, emotional, or environmental, or depriving yourself of rest will affect your well being and have an adverse influence on your reproductive system. An anatomical guide. Take extra precaution to maintain your overall well-being. Keep your mind and body in harmony, and your reproductive system is likely to function well. Specific problems can often be traced back to general health. Problems relating to the reproductive system have a deep impact on a woman's psyche. For example, if your period is delayed and you don't want to get pregnant, the worry can affect your work, behavior, energy, and concentration. Spotting between periods can generate worries about fibroids, hormonal imbalance, etc. And visiting a doctor about gynecological problems can be a source of embarrassment. The uterus and cervix. With today's technology, it's possible to grow an embryo outside the womb or uterus, but under normal circumstances, this is the organ where life is born. It provides nutrition and protection for a baby from shortly after conception until the moment of birth. The placenta embedded in its walls provide nutrients for the growing fetus and removes waste matter. The thick walls of the uterus and the fluid it contains, amniotic fluid, protect the unborn child. Absorbing shocks and pressure in the muscular uterine walls work to deliver the child when it is time to be born. Although the uterus does not reach full development until puberty, it is there at birth and even begins to develop in the fetus from about 10 weeks. Because of its role to hold an unborn child, it is often imagined as a large organ, but unless you are pregnant, it is only about 8 cm long and 5 cm wide. It is often described as pear shaped as it is round but narrows into cervical canal with an indented ring shape around the neck or cervix where it joins the vagina. The vagina itself is covered in more detail in the chapter on vaginal and urinary health. The uterus is sheathed in a thick membrane, an extension of the peritoneum, which covers and protects all the abdominal organs in one way or another. Strong ligaments hold the uterus in place, keeping it supported in pregnancy so that it remains freely suspended despite the weight of the fluid in the growing baby. In a woman of reproductive age who has not given birth, the uterine wall is about 2 cm thick, consisting of an outer layer of involuntary muscles, the myometrium, and a inner layer called the endometrium, which is jelly-like and full of blood vessels. One set of arteries reaches the endometrium from outside, passing through the myometrium, and another set encircle the endometrium. Its glands, blood vessels, and other cells change under hormonal influences, each month growing and refining, then shedding blood and tissues as menstruation. Right, the diagram of the female reproductive system showing position of ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix, and vagina. Mm, ganito. Yung picture na pinapakita ng libro. Ito. Ganyan yan siya, yung reproductive, yung uterus. Showing the production of ova or eggs in the ovaries, the fallopian tubes leading to the uterus in the thick uterine wall. Ito naman yun. Diba? Ano may papakita sa'yo? Ito ta. Yan. Yan, ganyan. Ganyan siya. The ovaries and fallopian tubes. The two ovaries, each shaped like a miniature rugby ball, lie to left and right to the uterus. They are only about 3 cm long, during reproductive years, but each contains amazingly around 200,000 ovarian follicles. Each of these contain an egg, ovum. The ovaries also produce and are influenced by various reproductive hormones. The ovaries are linked to the upper part of the uterus by a short tube, again one on each side about 10 cm long. These are the fallopian tubes, also known as oviducts, because it is through this that an egg travels to the uterus upon ovulation each month. The ends of the tubes are franked to catch the egg as it released by the ovary, and it is in the fallopian tube that, if successfully penetrated by sperm, an egg is fertilized. The tubes have a front like lining which helps the egg move along the tube to the uterus. Health checks. The uterus is the site of the common cancers, cervical and myometrial. The regular checks are recommended to all women who are or have been sexually active. This may be annually or every 3 years. A manual gynecological examination will feel for hard or unusual tissue or incipient tumors in the uterus. And a cervical smear, called a pap smear, will be taken to look for any abnormal cell development on the cervix. Being told that abnormal cells have been found that can be frightening, but they do not mean that you have cancer. They will simply indicate that further checks should be made, which may involve nothing more than smears at more frequent intervals. It is quite usual for subsequent tests to be negative. If any precancerous cells are confirmed, the disease will have been caught at a very early stage if you have been regularly checked in the past. Menstruation. Understanding the amazing synchronization of different parts of your system helps to explain what might be happening when things go wrong. Ovarian and uterine cycles. Although monthly periods are often an inconvenience and bring with them discomfort and mood swing, they are an indication that the reproductive cycle is working, a complex but minutely orchestrated combination of hormonal impulses created the reproductive cycles that ensure that everything happens as it should. The hypothalamus secretes gonadotropin releasing hormone at certain intervals and volumes known as frequency and amplitude. This rhythm of GnRH secretion is called the pulse. When the gonadotropin releasing hormones pulse reaches 16 to 24 per day, one pulse every 60 to 90 minutes. The pituitary secretes follicle stimulating hormone, which signals the ovarian follicles to develop the secretes estrogen. The rising level of estrogen in the blood triggers the hypothalamus to secrete more GnRH, and the pulse rises further at about 36 per day. The pituitary secretes another hormone, luteinizing, luteinizing hormone, and together FSH and LH trigger the development of an egg follicle. Incidentally, usually only one ovary at a time responds, even though the hormones target them both. When the quickening impulse arrives every 30 minutes, the egg follicle, which has now reached a diameter of about 15 millimeter, bulges out of the ovary like a balloon and bursts, releasing the egg, which is drawn towards the funnel of the fallopian tube. Here it may be fertilized. Occasionally, more than one follicle repents and release an egg. Should both or more rarely, three or more eggs be fertilized, this will be the beginning of the fraternal, non-identical twins or triplets. The developed follicles would have up to now been squashing all other ovarian tissue to stop any other follicles developing, shrink back on bursting, and gradually forms a hard mass called the corpus luteum or luteal body. In the meantime, the high level of LH also triggers secretion of another ovarian hormone, progesterone. Under the influence of estrogen, the endometrium has been building up since the last menstrual period, but this increase in progesterone stimulates more rapid development in preparation for a fertilized egg. This phase of rapid growth of the endometrium lasts for approximately 14 days, at which point the endometrium is fully developed. If the released egg has been fertilized, the corpus luteum, example the remnant of the ovarian follicle the egg came from, continues to secrete progesterone. If not, secretion is switched off. When the endometrium stops getting any hormonal instruction in support from the ovary, its spiral arteries constrict. Just as when you cut a branch of a tree, the leaves on it wither away. The endometrial cells begin to die off in patches. The blood vessels in the spiral arteries begin to rupture. This, coupled with necrotized tissue, causes the entire endometrium to collapse. This is the onset of menstruation. The repair work starts as soon as the bleeding ends, as new cells begin to grow and another cycle begins. One messenger, many messages. Our body's reaction to a hormonal impulse is quite different from a nervous one. Our nerves stimulate a single reaction. We sense the heat of a flame. We pull our hand away. Our knee is tapped in a particular place. The lower leg swings up. A hormonal stimulus acts simultaneously on relevant parts of our body. If we see a mulger coming from us, the hormone adrenaline causes our heart to race, our lungs to breathe faster, our muscles to tense ready for running, our liver to release glucose for instant energy, our pancreas to secrete cortisol and adrenaline, and our cells to release energy molecules. One messenger, many messages. The source of the message is in the brain, specifically the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus sends some messages directly through the nervous system, but triggers other by releasing messenger hormones. It sends this out either directly or instruct the pituitary, which lies just below it, to do so. The adrenaline that allows us to escape the manger is triggered by the pituitary's instruction to adrenal glands. In the case of the reproductive cycles, the ovarian hormones work in concert to bring about the most phenomenal changes, triggering egg development, growth of uterine cells, endometrial glands, and blood vessels in the uterus, and then, in the case of an unfertilized egg, the disintegration of the endometrium. Hmm. Kaya pala ito pumakapal. First, the ovulation. Second, hormone level. Follicular stages during the ovarian hormone levels. Endometrial changes during the uterine cycle. So, ito yun. Na kumakapal. in basal temperature. Hindi ko nakikita ko sa libro.
Yan. Kita ba? So, yan yung parang nagiging cycle ng menses, tapos proliferative phase, then secretory phase.
So, dun muna tayo para dahan-dahan lang natin siyang ma-absorb. Kasi tingin ko parang ang ng nito, ng libro. Kailangan natin siyang palaliman yung pag-intindi natin para mas makuha natin yung mga messages. Kasi hindi naman tayo doktor. Ako hindi rin ako doktor. Pero mas interesado ako kasi nga regarding nga sa mga information regarding sa kababaihan. So, dun lang muna tayo sa menstruation na bukas ulit, mag-aano tayo ng pulse diagnosis and breathing exercise. Try natin. Meron mga ganito eh. So, bye-bye. God bless everyone.